This is AI.R. Artists in Residence Broadcasting, coming to you once a week from New York City. Hello. Today I want Emily to introduce me, and I'll introduce her.
This is John Cullums.
And this is Emily Frankel.
And John is my husband.
And yes, yes.
Okay. I want to do a conversation about a man that I didn't like.
Your husband?
No. A man that's a black man that speaks up very, very strongly. He's always jumping in, giving opinions about how blacks are being mistreated and how this person should have been helped by the police, not beaten up by the police.
Al Sharpton.
Al Sharpton.
I got it.
Well, Al Sharpton, since 1987, around 1987, in the days when we had Jesse Jackson, remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, Jesse Jackson was the same thing. You kind of admired him, but he annoyed me because
Now, are we talking about Jesse Johnson?
No, they were connected.
Yeah, but Jesse Johnson was a preacher. Jackson was a preacher, and he was I always thought of him as being an intellectual, too.
Well, Jesse Jackson actually inspired Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton is much younger than Jesse Jackson. When Al Sharpton was 15, Jesse Jackson was very, very well known.
Oh.
And it always annoyed me, and perhaps it was back in those days I just felt, what does this guy want? Maybe this guy's running for president. I always thought Jesse Jackson was going to run for president.
Well, you got that feeling. Yeah.
Yes, you did. Well, Sharpton, in fact, when he was 4 years old, was a preacher. Yeah.
That's right.
And Sharpton, when he was 7 years old, sang and traveled with Mahalia Jackson. So this
you're making this up.
No. I looked it up. It was a fascinating article I read about him.
Well, my opinion of him is going up.
Well, wait a minute. I got more to say. So when he came into the limelight, he weighed about 300 pounds. He had his hair all poofed up in a pompadour.
I remember, yeah.
And one of the reasons for that was that he was connected almost like a son to James Brown, the soul singer, James Brown. Why? You want to know why?
No, you mean there's this interconnection between them?
They loved each other. And when James Brown's son was killed, Al Sharpton became like a son for James Brown.
Gosh, I didn't have any idea.
And he promised James Brown that he would always wear his hair. No matter what happened, he would wear his hair in that pompadour. And what's funny about that is, wait a minute, this is a guy who's speaking for the black people, and black people should be beautiful the way they are, and he's straightening his hair.
Yeah.
But that's what Al Sharpton is. So he weighed 300 pounds in around 1987 when a girl, a teenager, I think her name was Tawana. That's my mom. Yeah. She claimed that she was raped by a bunch of white men. And that went on for a long time, and he became...
Did he take up her cause?
He took up her cause. And he took up, after her, a series of causes which were strange. For instance, remember Bernard Goetz? There was a guy in the subway who claimed that he was attacked by kids, black kids. Sharpton took up the case for the black kids, and it's like, wait a minute. We New Yorkers, whose side were we on? I think we were sort of favoring Goetz, but that's not the point, whose side we were on. What was interesting was that...
Well, I have to interject that I'm not sure that I favored Goetz. But there's a big discussion, a big pro and con.
It was a big deal.
Yeah, and I do remember that Sharpton was involved.
Anyway, Sharpton has over the years changed his size. He now wears wonderful suits. He takes more and more concern about major issues that have to do with individual black people.
What about his hair?
His hair is still in a pompadour, but he's slender.
I admire him for that. I think that's great.
And I just wanted to say, reading about what this man has done, the annoyance that I had with him trying to put himself in the front of things and become famous. And he earns his living with a radio talk show. He guests and does guest speeches at various churches. He's not a rich man. He's just a man who's representing his people whenever there's a cause. And I find that very powerful.
Yeah, and it's,
So
it takes all kinds. You've got Martin Luther King, you've got Jesse Jackson, and you've got Al Sharpton, all approaching the problem in different ways, but they're all in the forefront of defending
black people
and the things that have been done against the black people.
If he didn't exist, I think the media would somebody else would create another Al Sharpton. So, hooray for Al Sharpton.
Well, I feel the same way too. And I had no idea that he had that particular background. But I must admit that I over the years, you have to admire him.
Well, that's it.
That's it? Well, thank you for joining us. We'll be with you again next week with another interesting topic. So long. This is AI.R. See you next week.